Okay, right, so here we are again. 50 versus 85.
1.8 S lens. We often see questions, if you haven't got a prime or you haven't got a sort of a medium range prime, a lot of people say, should I get the 50, should I get the 85? We've got both of them, so we thought we'd just do a few tests to have a look at the difference, both in terms of if you're using it for sort of head and shoulders portrait, how far away do you need to be? You're going to test them at home in low light, for instance, which you'd expect them to be very similar. But just how useful are they and how flexible? You use the 50 a lot, don't you?
Yes, well, it's one of the latest additions to my collection actually, because I thought I just bought it open box, it was a good deal. But it's actually become more useful than I actually thought it would be.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do with the videos today. We're going to test the sharpness and the user case for each one, and see in the different scenarios, is the 50 better or is the 85 better?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the major thing we're testing today. We're going to video side by side to show what distance you need to be from the subject to get the most out of the lens, to get the best sharpness, to get the best depth of field. And with portrait lenses like the 85, that's the main concern. That's the main deal with them. So can the 85 make a substantial difference with the depth of field compared to a 50 can, both shooting at 1.8? And then we'll come back to the end and see what kind of verdicts on how, because we've used them for quite a long time now, these lenses. And it's interesting to, over time, where we actually use them the best.
Let's see if
let's see. I mean, that's if you're going to get one, which one would you get for your user case, or would you use more often than you think?
Because they're the same, similar size, similar weight, similar price, are they? Is price similar?
Think so.
Yeah, okay. So it's a straight choice, isn't it, between the features?
Yeah, that's fun. Let's have some fun, see what we can find.
Fun. I need a bit of fun in my life.
So I've taken these images with the same settings, and with the 50 and the 85 I obviously had to move the tripod to create the same composition so we could test the sharpness. This is a low light test, 50 on the left, 85 on the right, same settings throughout. So I'm starting at 20,000 ISO, and this is a dark room, as you can see the curtains are closed. And they both look usable images. So at 100%, 50mm does seem to have a more complete, sharper image. They're both noisy a bit, obviously at 20,000. This is at 2.8 now. ISO 51,200, the maximum ISO on the Z6. Again, really nice images. Without cropping in, they both look really good. 2.8, 250 shutter speed. Okay, so at 100% at the maximum ISO on both lenses. 50 does have a better rendition there. As you can see, the 85 is kind of fading on the Tommy writing there. And the 50 it's okay. Obviously it's not a usable image, but this is straight out of camera. So now we're using Tommy outside, and the Tommy was about 2 foot away from the wall. This is at 1.8. So at 1.8 they both look nice, and this also shows the depth of field, how the 85 has this kind of creamier, more faded depth of field in the background here, I would say, compared to the 50, but they both look nice. Both doing the job of separating the background from the foreground. So let's look at 100%. At 100%, at 1.8, both the same settings. And for me, the 50 does have a sharper, more complete image, I would say. If you look at the M here, you can see the texture here, and you can on the 85, it's slightly different rendition. It goes along with other reviewers who have said the 50 is one of the sharpest Z lenses available. This kind of goes along with that, but this is at 100% at 1.8, and you can see it's very similar, very similar. Although I would say 50 has the advantage on sharpness. So this is at 2.8, both the same settings, 50 on the left, 85 on the right. So 100% crop on 2.8. They are noticeably sharper overall, and again I would say the 50 has a different image look. However, I would say it's still slightly sharper in certain places, although it has levelled out more, I would say. But again, they're both really nice renditions and both really sharp. This is at F7.1 now, same settings, 50 on the left, 85 on the right. You can really start to see the dust on the little particles there going on with the buttons. On the 85 it's not so clear. This is just show the 50mm on both sides now, but at 1.8 and 7.1, just to show the differences in the depth of field and what you can achieve. And as you can see at 100% with 50mm on both sides, that the 7.1 is a lot sharper. Obviously it would be, but the 50mm at 1.8 is still sharp at 1.8. And the same again, this is the 85 on both sides, 1.8 and 7.1, and the separation there is quite incredible, isn't it? And again, obviously at 1.8 it's a softer image, but still sharp enough, and at 7.1 you can really see the differences there between the two details. That was interesting.
It was.
What did you find about interesting? Was there any surprises for you?
I thought it was interesting to see how far away you had to stand from the subject on each lens, and as you get closer, that difference is, because it's all relative, wasn't too much. Overall, I think you'd expect the 85 to have shallower depth of field because it's got the extra compression of a longer focal length, which was noticeable, particularly when you were closer up, I think. And the bokeh was really nice on the 85. Yeah. I think if I hadn't got either of them, they've got the budget for one, I'd probably buy the 50 first, because I think it's probably a more flexible.
Yeah, well, pretty much the same. I think I did get the 85 first, and if you want to get the best portrait lens in the Z series at the moment, the 85 is that lens. If you've got the time and the space to get the best out of it, sure, it has that extra notch, that extra level of the compression and the depth of field, that kind of like creamy look, and it kind of compresses the background, like with the bricks. The bricks are completely different sizes, even though it was the same composition of photo. So those kind of things, it kind of minimalises and gives a nice bokeh depth of field. However, the 50 is so much more useful, I think, and the depth of field, the public, to someone who's not a photography specialist, probably won't be able to tell much difference in the.
No,
photo.
not unless they saw them side by side. Really, I think it's fine. No. It was also interesting when you did those low light tests. Is it Tommy or Tommy? You called it Tommy. Is it Tommy or Tommy? Who cares? Anyway, I think it was interesting to see that everybody says the 50 is like mega sharp, and I think what you showed was it was a tiny bit sharper, but that was at 100% presumably.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, without cropping in, they look the same. We're cropping at 100%, you have that notch better maybe, it's that extra level, kind of. In the daylight and the low light were about the same distance in quality, I think, from each other, but they're both really good.
Yeah. So the Russell and Law's recommendation is then buy the 50 first if you can afford, if you just got the money for one of them, and then perhaps add the 85 later on. Although I would possibly say, controversial perhaps, but put your money then for the 85 actually towards the 70 to 200, because I reckon that's an amazing lens. So once you get up to that sort of range of focal lengths, everybody needs a 70 to 200. Yeah,
it's a brilliant lens. So, but that's the thing, with if you're just doing portraits and you love doing portraits, you want the very best, then the 85 1.8 is that best level to get. But yeah, I mean, I can show you examples now that for weddings, I used to use the 85, but I couldn't use it very often because I didn't have time to get the right distance from the
far enough away from the subject,
and I didn't have the space sometimes as well. So the 50, and now I have the 50 on my side all the time now, and it makes beautiful photos. A shallow depth of field in the background, really nice. I'm really happy with it. And the 85 could be that extra next step better, but I think the 50 does a great job for that as well. And I'll use it for street photography. It's probably the one lens I'd take out if I want something light, portable. I know I could do everything.
If in doubt, just take the 50. Yeah.
Pretty much, that's it. I mean, 51.2 is tempting, but it's a lot bigger and heavier and much more expensive. Again, would you notice that depth of field change from 1.8 to 1.2? We would, maybe.
Yeah, if you put them side by side, but
Otherwise, 1.8 does a really nice job.
Yeah. But,
I think it is user case scenario. I mean, if you do loads of portraits, you'd have both probably anyway, or the 85.
yeah.
But again, the 50. If I was going to get one, I'll get the 50 as well, not the 85.
No.
I think it's one of the lenses I like the idea of, but I don't use it as much as I should or can. Well, this video is a good example. So we're filming with a 50 here.
Yeah.
Nice depth of field,
Yeah.
but it can see stuff in the background slightly.
Yeah.
But it still has that massive separation.
Yeah.
And then you've got the 85 way over there. Hello, 85.
Hello, 85.
And it looks gorgeous. I mean,
Yeah.
we're completely isolated. That's what it's for,
Gorgeous.
isn't it? To isolate the subject.
Yeah.
And to kind of eradicate the background and compress, or compress it all. It looks gorgeous.
What you could have done is put 70 to 200 on and gone the other side of the ring mode. F2.8, lovely compression then.
Yeah. But the other thing with the 85 is, with the sharpness, you don't have to have that sharp, pixel peeping sharpness for a portrait lens anyway.
No,
It's not about the sharpness, it's about the
No.
depth of field, and that's
Yeah.
what the 85 does.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're both happy with the lenses. They're both
Yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
good. We recommend them both.
definitely.
But it'd be interesting to see what the 85 1.2 could do. If it's going to be like the big Canon, like, I'm going to bring it with me.
On your cowboy.
Yeah, the
your
harness.
cowboy kit.
I'll be walking like this, one side with my harness. But yeah, so it'd be interesting to see. Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Oh, don't break it, because this is Loz's.
That's mine.
It's fine, it's
Typical.
good. It's good, it's light and nimble.
Steady.